Hey guys, thanks for tuning in. So today we have the privilege to review the DYS X160 micro racer drone from Banggood.com. This was a review model from Banggood.com, and there will be the links down in the description of where to pick this up if you're interested. But anyway, let's start the review. Basically what we're going to be doing is unboxing this and seeing what we get in the box, doing a full setup, putting on the props, putting in, this package comes with an integrated FPV system, an FPV antenna, cloverleaf antenna, 5.8 gigahertz, plus the camera, kind of all integrated into the copter itself. And all you have to do is supply your transmitter, receiver, and your battery. So it's basically an almost ready to fly kit. So we're going to be unboxing this, doing an inspection, and then also doing kind of a setup. And this is going to be part one of probably a 3-part review. So this will be the unbox setup, and then the part 2 will be the flight test, and then the part 3 will probably be the final pros and cons, afterthoughts on how it did. Just getting into the package here. It's pretty small, pretty simplistic. The package just has the name of it here, and it's got a few specifications here where it tells you the motor, the weight, and it has a CC3D pre-tuned flight controller. So in this video, I don't think I'm going to be connecting it to the computer to do any configuration. Basically, we're just going to be setting it up and doing a fly kind of out of the box after we set up the receiver and stuff. I've got some comments that people kind of want to see how it runs without doing any tweaking of the software. So I think I'm going to start just doing out of the box review flights, and then I'll be doing other videos after the fact of how to tweak the settings and stuff. So initially out of the box, we're greeted with the instruction manual on top, and then we've got the actual craft itself here. It's just kind of in this cardboard box, and here is the FPV cloverleaf antenna. See if we can get it out here. There we go. Okay, so here's the craft. Here's the cloverleaf antenna here. That will screw right on top. First thing, what I would recommend is right out of the box, screw this on top of the antenna, because if you do power up without an antenna on, you could damage the actual transmitting video transmitter. So we always like to put our antennas on right out of the box. And let's see what else we get in the box here. We get our Velcro strap for our battery. We also get 2 sets of props. It looks like they give us 8 props, so that's great. They give you 8 sets of props. I have ordered a few extra sets. I would recommend anytime you're buying any kind of flying craft, order a few extra sets of these. They have these on Banggood's website or wherever you'd like to buy them. And they just give you the screws for the props in the box. These props do take 2 screws for each prop. So they give you a set of, looks like 8 screws. Let's just quickly take a look at the manual real quick. It looks pretty simplistic. It's just kind of giving you a thank you and disclaimer, introduction to what it is and what it includes. 160 millimeter, 1104, 4000 kV motors, 3x2 propellers. It's got 10 amp high quality BL Heli firmware ESCs. It supports 1-shot ultra high speed firmware, I guess. And the flight range, more than 1,000 meters. Of course, that's going to depend on your transmitter receiver combo, obviously, so I'm not sure where they come up with those numbers. And it does have a 32 channel 5.8 gigahertz 200 milliwatt video transmitter built in, and a 1/3 inch CMOS lens for 127 degrees or wider for the camera. So it just kind of gives you dimensions and just an overall rundown of what it is there. And then it shows you here how to change channels on the video transmitter, how to install the propellers, and kind of what all the components are on the main built-in integrated board here. And then also on the arms themselves. This is an integrated craft, so let's go over that real fast on what actually you get on the actual craft itself. So pretty interesting. It's a highly integrated carbon fiber integrated circuitry. We've got our 10 amp ESCs here with our integrated circuitry on there. We can see we have some aluminum posts here, and the bottom is just a pure carbon fiber plate here, and then the top is an integrated power supply board which has all the integrated electronics. We've got the 200 milliwatt VTX here. We've got our dip switches. We've got our antenna standoff for our 5.8 gigahertz cloverleaf here. And then we have all the other integrated electronics. We have the CC3D flight controller, which it claims it's pre-tuned. So we will just be flying out of the box with its pre-tuned settings, and then we'll be adjusting in another video after the fact if necessary. So we can see that the construction is pretty well integrated. Here's the camera on the front. And it's kind of, the body has these, the frame chassis has these notches in here where the camera is tilted up maybe about a 10-degree tilt. We can see here. So when you are flying forward, it keeps the video a little more level in flight. We can see the motors here. These are the 1104 4000 kV motors by DYS. So these are really tiny brushless motors. The tiniest I've seen yet in all the quads I've owned. And we can see how the construction is highly integrated, where you would have to desolder the arms in order to change if you break an arm or one of these ESCs burns out. You'll have to have some soldering skill. Well, you'll have to desolder the bottom. There's two big soldering points on the bottom. If you can see them there, there's two big soldering points on the bottom in the arms. And then there's two soldering points on the top, as well as these screws that go all the way down into, they probably grip into the aluminum halfway, and the same thing for the bottom. It goes in and grips into the aluminum standoffs. So really small, compact package. The reason they can make it so light and compact is because everything is integrated. And we'll see how it holds up in the field. We can see, just curiously noticing here on the ESCs, I can see this, it looks like they went over it with a brush of clear coat to protect, you can see that shine there, to protect the ESCs on the top and bottom from any moisture or probably little hits and nicks or any kind of metal that might touch the electronics. It won't short out. So it's good that they did that. I think that racing quads are probably going to move more in a closed body direction pretty soon here. This one still has open body type of construction, obviously to save weight and also for cooling purposes. That's always a factor. But I guess I would have thought maybe they would put some shrink wrap around the ESC arm combo here. But maybe they didn't because for better heat dissipation. So I guess that's just how they chose to do this one. But anyway, real simple, looks like it's a pretty well integrated construction. The arms all the way around are thicker than the top and bottom body plates. The top and bottom look about the same thickness, and the arm is just a tad bit thicker, maybe around 2 millimeters on the arms, and maybe like 1.5 or so on the top and bottom body plates. And we can see that it doesn't come with any receiver for your transmitter combo. So what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be installing FR Sky X8R receiver that actually came with the Tyrannus here. This is the Tyrannus Plus, and so I'll be binding this and connecting all this together right now and showing you guys how to connect that up. Obviously, if you have a different receiver transmitter combo, it's going to be a little bit different, but this will be a basic, just a real quick and dirty basic install of how to install a receiver into this little guy, and just so you can get it flying. So I went ahead and got these 900 milliamp 30 to 60C 3S batteries online. I think I got these from eBay. I'll go ahead and have the link in the description if you guys want to pick these up. But I have yet to test this, so I'm going to need to, before I say pick these up, you're going to need to watch the flight test just to see how it flies, just to make sure these aren't too heavy or too light or don't last long enough. So we'll be definitely testing this out so you can see how it flies with all this stuff here. Okay, so the first thing we want to do is we want to mount the receiver into the craft. And I was just kind of test fitting, and it looks like this X8R casing is a little bit too large to fit in here comfortably, and I wanted to put it down here on the bottom chassis here. So what I decided to actually do is go ahead and take the casing off. So it looks like it's pretty easy to take this casing off. All you need to do is separate the two bodies here and pull it apart. Okay, so we have a much smaller form factor, and basically the way I plugged all these in is just kind of what they said on the each servo plug has a label on it. So I just went ahead and chose a channel for each one. I didn't really do it in any specific order. I just went from throttle and then all the way down. And then the last servo plug here, the last channel, it actually supplies the ground and voltage as well as the signal. And it says channel 6 here. So I put that at the end here. And if you look at the actual top cover, you can see when you're putting them in, you have all the different channels. It says 1 through 8 over here. So just plug those in, and just remember that all these other plugs are just signal wires until you get to the channel 6 plug, which has the voltage and stuff. So the top will be the signal all the way across, the middle will be the voltage, and the bottom one will be the ground itself. Okay, so anyway, just got all those plugged in. And then we're just going to kind of see how we want to mount this up. Now with the FR Sky receiver, you can see that the antennas are this special kind of wide ending antennas. So these are going to be a little bit trickier than normal to kind of mount. So just from mock-up, I'm probably going to want to just kind of put them through here. Have them going on either side of the flight controller. And then as we can see, when we take off that outer casing on the receiver, it just slips nicely right in between the chassis braces here. So what I'm going to be doing is putting like a sticky tape, double-sided sticky tape here, so all these electronics aren't going to be touching the carbon fiber. You don't want anything that's raw solder or wiring or anything to be touching anything else. So I'm going to probably be doing double-sided sticky tape on the bottom here, sticking this down. And then I'm thinking about something like just zip tying these receiver antennas right to the bottom like this, either the front or the back, I'm not sure. And it looks like it will be pretty well balanced since the camera's up front. We have our video transmitter on the back with the antenna on the back. We have this receiver on the back, and then the flight controller is kind of in the middle front. It looks like either end we put these antenna on, it will be pretty balanced. We can just slide the battery back and forth to get our center of gravity. So before we do mount up the receiver in the craft, since it's going to be a little tight, I want to go ahead and make sure I bind the Tyrannus to the receiver first, since it looks like this stuff will be hard to reach when I get it in the craft. So the way we do this is just temporarily I'm going to plug it into the flight controller. This cable just plugs directly in here. This is the cable it actually comes with. I don't think I showed that in the unboxing, but it comes with this cable for your receiver hookup. When we are powering this up, giving power to the receiver, we want to make sure that we're holding this button here. This is the bind button. We want to make sure that we're holding that down while we plug in the power. So this could be a little bit tricky. So I'm making sure I'm pushing this button. You can kind of feel it click in. And I'm putting power on. And we can see that we have this red and green light on solid. So that means that the receiver is ready for binding with the transmitter. So now I'm going to go ahead and turn on
Welcome to OpenTX.
the Tyrannus. And I've already set up a new model in here. So I'm just going to go to that new model. I'm just going to go to the new model and then go page. And then this is where you can set up your name. You can set up all the different things of what your model's about. And I'm going to go all the way down to here. So you basically just pick what mode you want. The channel range, since there's only 8 channels on this receiver, I'm just going to have 1 to 8. And then you go to this selection here where it says bind. And just press enter. All the time we're watching the receiver here, the lights. So I'm going to press enter here. And we can see the red light's blinking. So that means it's bound if you do see the red light blinking. So we're going to press enter again. So that means it should be bound to the receiver. So I'm going to exit out of this. So after we do the binding, all we do is unplug the power and then reboot it up. And then you can see the red lights blinking because there is no transmitter, because I just shut it off. I'm going to turn it back on. And now you can see when the transmitter boots up, we have a solid green light. This means it's all connected, it's bound to the receiver and the transmitter, and we can go ahead and test the flight, the power up, and if it actually communicates with the craft. So I'm going to be taking the left stick and pushing it to the bottom right. And here we go. We can see that the motors are now actually spinning up. We can see that we have throttle response. And so this is where we'll go ahead and just test if we have all the correct settings for our channels. So left and right yaw, right, left, and then our pitch. We can tell if it's kind of working if when we pitch forward, the front motors stop and the rear motors stay going, stay turning in a low throttle instance here. So I'm pushing forward, and it looks like the front motors basically have stopped and the rear motors are going. So that means that's correct. And I'm pushing back, and it's basically the opposite, where the front motors have sped up and the rear motors have stopped. And then for rolling, so basically to the left, you can see that the left motors have stopped and the right motors have increased in speed, and vice versa. You know, just for a pre-check before you fly, it looks like everything's working and doing good. And of course you can change all these different channel parameters in the controller. If something's not right, you can reverse them and all that stuff. So that's just a little quick instance on how to bind. And then of course to disarm, we're pressing down and left. So let's move on to installing the receiver in the craft. Okay, and this is just a chunk of this 3M double-sided sticky tape. That's pretty heavy-duty stuff. You can find it like Walmart or something for a few bucks for a roll. Okay, so one more layer of sticky tape. Okay, I think that'll be pretty good. Right there should be good. If you are installing this receiver like this, naked without the cover, it looks like just on the safe side, to be on the safe side, you're going to want to slide it a little bit more to the left if your channels are all on this side, because it'll bump up against the plastic servo connector instead of touching over here on the aluminum. I'll probably just push in some foam here just for insulation, just so none of these short out if it does knock loose or something. All right. So there we go. So we got the receiver mounted in the bottom, nice and tight, and accessible on the servo connectors here, and also we can reach that bind switch if we need to on the bottom, right through this little slot here. Good. Then what I think I'm going to do with the antenna is to keep them further away from the video transmitter and all that RF over there. I'm going to go ahead and mount them on the front arms here. And since these do have kind of a flat radiation here, where I think it's going to radiate better, like if these are turned perpendicular to the ground like this, there'll be radiation out this way and to the front, instead of mounting them flat like this where the radiation will be more up and down. I'd rather have it like this. So I think this will be a nice spot. It'll just basically slip kind of right in between these two chassis braces and right in between the screws that hold the motor in, and it kind of locks itself in there. And then I'm just going to basically put a zip tie, I think right around the arms. Okay, so let's get a couple of handy dandy zip ties. See how this will mount up. It's kind of neat how these are shaped perfectly, so the antennas slip right in between those the red chassis bars. So I'm using one zip tie to just kind of go around like that, and then we can see that on the top we're just kind of zip tying it like so. And I think I'm going to move this, rotate this so the knob is in the back, just like that, so we have the best clearance, and so this knob doesn't catch on stuff. Alright, again like that. So we have a nice clean install of the RX antenna, which is located directly below the arms. But so I'm going to do the same thing on this side, same thing to this antenna, mount it up right here. Okay, so that one's in there nice and tight. Great, so we got both antennas mounted. So because I do have this strange phobia of things shorting, went ahead and just cut some foam, and I'm just shoving it over the pins here that aren't in use, just to make sure, a little more peace of mind that this thing will not short on anything if it kind of bumps around, moves around a little bit. And then with the receiver, we are going to need to route this kind of back through the inside of the chassis. There we go. So just kind of squeezing it through. All right, there we go. So everything's nicely tucked in underneath. Okay, great. So that's all good. And we still have access to our servo plugs here in the channels if we need to switch some channels around. Okay, so receiver's in. It's sticky taped to the bottom of the frame. We got the antennas hooked up to the front arms. And we also have the receiver routed in and connected to the flight controller. So phase one complete. Now it's time to mount up the battery and the propellers. Okay, so with the propellers we get this bag of 8. So it looks like there's 2 clockwise, 2 counterclockwise. And we'll figure out which are which in a second here. And they give you the screws to mount those up. And they're not giving us a wrench, so we want to make sure we have the right hex wrench, which looks to be a 1.5 millimeter. Fits good. Okay, so the way motors spin, just in general, is if you've seen my other videos, the front motors are going to spin in towards the front, and the rear motors are going to spin in towards the rear. So the neat thing about these motors is if you accidentally, I guess if you do strip out, since they do have 4 threaded screw holes, if you do strip out 2, you have the other 2 you can use, just in case. Then the last prop on the last motor, same thing, it's going to be rotating into the front. We want to make sure the top edge is rotating in and the writing on the prop is facing the sky. And what I'm doing with this is actually just putting the screws in and then kind of pushing the screws down and rotating, and they'll actually lock in to the notches once they find their screw holes, and then you can just go ahead and screw them in. Okay, great. So we have the props mounted up. It's looking good. Looks like it's coming together, almost done. And now all we need to do is install the battery on the bottom. Some people like to put cameras on top. I will probably be trying to fly it a little bit with this run cam or something similar on top here. So I'm going to be wanting to leave it open on top for a camera like this. And let's see what the clearance is. So it looks like we have just a little bit of clearance, not much. So we're going to have to mount this camera on here real secure if I'm going to use this so it doesn't slide around and hit these propellers. Because you can see looks like we have maybe a little more than 1/8 of an inch of clearance. But for now, we're going to go ahead and put the battery on the bottom since we do want to leave it open for the camera on top. Okay, so I think the buzzer's just going to be mounted like that. I think there's some smaller buzzers too, so this is kind of a larger one for this type of craft, but eventually probably be getting some smaller buzzers for sure. Okay, so it's going to be somewhere along the lines of this as far as the mounting goes. I'll make sure that Velcro's in the notch. The battery's pushed back against the buzzer, so this can all lock down nice and tight. And we got the buzzer on the back here, and then we can just plug right in here, like so. Like that. Just be plugging in, setting down. It's going to be a little uneven, so hopefully we can get our level. So the last thing we need to test is going to be the FPV, make sure that's all working. And let's go ahead and just plug in this pair of goggles here and see if we can find the channel this guy's on. Okay, so there we are. So we're at channel 35. It's looking good. Let's test the latency, see what the latency's at. So there we go, there we're in view here. And let's see what we get. We can see that it's pretty low latency, next to nothing. And that's what you need for close proximity flight like this. You're going to need a really good low latency camera setup. Looks like probably less than 100 milliseconds of latency, so that's great, very good. So in the instruction manual, I can't really see what polarization this antenna is, but it almost looks like, just from looking at it in here with the flashlight, it kind of looks like it's only a dual leaf antenna, as we can see here inside with the flashlight. And I can't really tell the polarization from this. It looks like it might be right-hand polarization, just from the way the leaf looks from the inside. This is a right-hand polarized antenna here, and I'm just trying to see what it should look like, but it's kind of hard to tell. I'm not too sure. Anyway, so we know that the FPV video works, so let's go ahead and take this guy out to the park and do a thorough flight test on this, run it through, see how it flies just stock. They do claim that this is pre-tuned CC3D flight controller, so we will put that to the test and see how it is tuned, and then come back to the bench, do a pros and cons, and then also I'll make another video of the tuning on this as well, hooking this up to the computer and then tweaking some of the settings so you can see how it's tuned with software. I think this uses Clean Flight. So we will eventually be hooking that up and checking that out. So anyway, guys, go ahead and check out part 2. I'll have that up shortly, and I'll go ahead and put a card up here that'll pop up when I do have that video up, so you can check out the flight. And anyway, thanks for tuning in, and I'll see you in the next video. Thanks for watching.